So this is how to sketch. Rule number 1 of sketching is to sketch very lightly. And after that, there really isn't much rules to it other than, well, it's a preference after that point. But yeah, you want to get the basic shapes down, circles for the joints and whatnot, just for positioning purposes. Now, sketching is probably like the most important step because it's going to be your base that you're building your whole piece, your art piece from. Because sketching is really about getting your main idea or your initial idea out of your head while having fun at the same time. And it's the most fun because this is the part of the art process where you're allowed to be the most creative. And anything can pretty much go because it's your art after all. But I like to sketch my characters in a stickman format with circle joints, of course. So whatever bends in your major points should be circles. Circles, ovals. You know, you want more round organic shapes because bodies and human whatever nonsense is organic after all. You could use cubes. It's up to you, really. Now, you're going to be erasing a ton. And it's not a big deal because we're only erasing lines, and that's why it's good to do circles and lines because it's easy to readjust. If you do too much detail too soon, it's going to be a lot of wasted energy, trust me. But also, my goal when I start sketching out is to do the bare minimum. So you can deal with mistakes much easier, you can readjust in a minute's, seconds notice, and you won't have to backtrack too much. Now when it comes to sketching arms for me, I always tend to do it. Let's just start with a head real quick and a body or whatever. But when it comes to sketching arms, I usually do it like this. Shoulder, then like the arm part where the muscle is, the elbow, and then wherever the wrist would lie would be last. And that doesn't always have to be a circle, that can be like a cube or whatever, because that's where the hand goes. And for the leg as well, like the legs is, it's the same as the arm. It's like you got the starter, where the top part would be, well, then we have like the thigh, then we got the knee joint right here, and then we have that, and then we have the final, which the foot would be. So it's just a longer form of an arm piece. That's how I do my setups normally. You can also do it in another way, such as this. You can do it like shoulder, like just like we can go even a little bit further with it. And here's the, let's say this is what the hand is. You could do circles, ovals. This is more like an organic feeling to it. And this would be easier for when you're doing clothes that'll wrap around better, like this. So when it comes time, rather than just the circles, you wouldn't know where to guess. It'd be more blocky and cubical. But when you do ovals, it's much easier to wrap around it and not have to worry about where goes what. And the same thing goes with pants. Now, it's pretty much the same thing. I should probably make a separate video on how to do clothing, actually. But it's the same principle when it comes to the arm right here. Now the arm is also like a chain, like this right here. See, let me show you. This will be like the shoulder, which would be the wide part. Then we'll go to like the thin part, and then the elbow would be where the wide is, and then the hand would be where the wide is again. So it's like wide, thin, and that's just like the chain as well. Now if you want to get really basic, you can do like the muscle, the arm part. And usually where the top of the arm is, it's wider than when it gets thinner towards the wrist, like that. And sometimes it's fun to do it sharper. I know it's not what arm is, but that's a separate style on its own. But when you do it sharper like this, you can also go round, and then when it comes time, then you can smooth it out over the course of time. And then it's like the chain right up here. And the same goes with the thigh as well. You can do round, it's like wider up top and it gets thinner towards the knee. Then just like the arm right here where the forearm is, it's like the calf right here. It's like this, it's wider at the top, comes into it. Then when you got these sharp angles for the legs, you can always round it like this to finalize it. That's why sketching is very important lightly, so you don't have to deal with all this mess and you can easily outline where you want to go. But yeah, it's also like this chain. Now that method's 100% helpful for when you're trying to do clothing and you're trying to test things out and see how clothing wraps around certain body parts. But since I already know these two characters I'm drawing, which is Shard and Enra, I already know the way their clothes are, so I don't need to do that extra step, that extra chain process that I just shown you. Yeah, but let's say you're just stuck at stickmen. The best next step is to make boxes around those lines and form those boxes over time into a character. Let's say you're stuck at the stickman part and you don't really know what to do. Well, first let me draw like a little upper body chest piece. But let's say you're stuck at the stick part and you never gotten past this part and you're new and just now getting to it. If you're not trying to draw a body, just keep adding to the body. Keep adding more shapes. Like we have this half circle for the chest. Then we're going to add another half circle, or like a cylinder for the abdomen. Then we're going to make this round. We're going to add this rounder. Then we can just start making, you could just really just make these into boxes or cylinders. Cylinders, circle, cylinders. Pretty much you're just putting your lines in a box. Putting a perimeter around your lines. You're doing more of a dynamic pose or something like that. You're going to want to make your cylinders more three-dimensional like this. And then you're going to have the elbow joint right there. Then you're going to have a cylinder. And that's going to help you a lot with the dynamic angles. You're going to want, for 3D angles, you're going to want 3D shapes. But basically, you're just doing an outline, so you just have to go around these shapes you've already made. So this would be the next step, or this, to the stickman. Now let's talk about this in the most basic form when we're doing where our character's looking, and this helps with the eye sizes and the eye length. So sometimes people draw eyes and it's just the same size and it doesn't make any sense, especially when he's looking in another direction. The vertical line would tell you just the positioning of where the head's facing, and this one would just help, the horizontal line will help you with the straightness and the evenness of the eye placement. Now you can see where he's pointing. This is like the center point of interest. He's looking up into the sky. Is in fact looking up into the sky. If it's just a straight on, they both would obviously be the same size and whatnot. Now, if you're wondering, this sketch is actually going to be a panel in a future upcoming chapter, maybe a few chapters from now. It's going to be Shard and Enra combining fire and glass to make Prince Rupert's drop, and it's going to be a dangerous move. It's going to be a double attack. It's going to be the first of its kind in my series, so I'm very excited for it. I'm not sure if I should call it a fusion attack, but it'll be attacks when two integrants of, obviously, each integrant has a different element, so it'll be two different integrants coming together and using their move to create a whole new single move. And I never draw on a horizontal paper. I usually draw the paper facing vertically, because that's usually the webtoon's proportions. So it's nice to do something horizontal for once. Now, sometimes there's an issue that when you're sketching, it's hard to see past your other sketches, like what line belonged to where, and so when you start doing hard lines, you make a mistake and connect the wrong lines to the wrong ones. So just outline in harder, darker colors the lines you know you're going to keep. So that way when you erase it, it doesn't get mixed up and lost in the mess. And the angles or lines or poses you're playing with the most and you're very unsure about, that you should be doing the lightest color of gray possible. Now this is the part where we're going to really be doing the really hard lines. Now if this was a one of one piece, I would have lightly erased everything to where you can just barely see, and I wouldn't be doing these hard lines at all. I'd be doing it with pen. But since this is going to be a part of a panel, a part of a chapter, it doesn't really matter so much, so I'm not going to pen or ink this. Another thing you can know about me, I don't really storyboard. I just have the idea very clearly in my head at all times, especially in the creative matters, but I try to make my picture as best as possible or accurate as possible to whatever's playing in my head, so when it comes time to do it digitally, I don't have to change much, and it's a much simple transition. Should I make a video on how I do my shading technique and process? And that's not just with like beneath their feet, also with the ripples of their clothes and the hatching marks and whatnot. Let me know in the comments below if you're interested. And this is their combination move, Shard and Enra's combination move. Prince Rupert's drop. You should do a little research on it. It's a very interesting topic. I'm glad someone brought it up to me. I believe it was Rad Comics who did that. But I appreciate it, and now it's going to be in the lore, of course, and it's going to be a big key component to future aspects. And, yep, here we are. This video helped you out in some way, think about liking and subscribing, and thank you for watching the video.